Christopher, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure, Katie.
I wanted to talk to you about 50 Shades of Grey to sort of, set the stage for us here. The movie debut last weekend was a dominant story in the secular media. The film's based on a book series which has sold millions of copies worldwide, but the books and the movie have received pretty poor reviews. And the series has been denounced by bishops across the country, as well as organizations like the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. The subject matter is unnatural sex, including sadomasochism. The movie did very well in the box office this weekend. What is behind this popularity?
Well, I think, Katie, we're looking at a downward spiral of sexual dysfunction. There's something about the sexual desire. When it's disordered, it desires more and more disorder. Mm-hmm. If you look back at the pinup pictures in the 1950s that were, all the rage in terms of sexual excitement, that looks like innocence today. Mm. So we see this downward spiral. It's part of what we might call the mystery of iniquity, the mystery of evil. Our hearts can be attracted to things that are evil. But there's also a deeper explanation here. There's a genuine human need that we're trying to satisfy in a very disordered way. I think we're seeing in 50 Shades of Grey a backlash against the leveling of the gender difference. When there is a leveling of the gender difference and we think men and women are simply interchangeable, that imbalance will have a backlash that goes to the other extreme where we exaggerate the gender difference. Men become domineering and women become totally submissive, and it turns violent. So we're going from one extreme here, the leveling of sexual difference, to a hyper sexual difference that is a distortion of the true reality of men learning how to initiate the gift of love, women learning how to receive the gift of love. When that gets twisted and distorted, it becomes something violent.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned this is a genuine human need. Humans need pornography, or could you clarify?
No. Genuine human need is for an understanding of the sexual difference and the proper complementarity of male and female. That's the genuine human need. And when that is not met in a healthy, holy way, it becomes terribly twisted and distorted.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things I did find most shocking was the target audience, that it's women, especially mothers. These are the people who you wouldn't expect to be flocking to see an explicit pornographic film or reading these books. Why are women specifically so attracted to it?
Well, again, I think if we look at the dysfunction in the culture when it comes to the role of men and women over the last 50, 60 years, where we have seen this leveling of the difference of men and women. And we have this idea that women can do the things that men do and men can do the things that women do. And there's a truth to that. There is an absolute truth to that we have to recognize. But it has gone to an extreme where we have seen, women think the only way they can be women is to become more and more like men. Well, there's going to be a backlash against that. And then you're going to have hyper idealized images of the masculine, and you're going to have this idea of a woman wanting to return to a place of receiving the love of a man. But when that goes in a distorted way, it becomes violent. But there's some genuine need in the woman's heart for the strength of the man, for the man to show her, to help her explore her own heart. When those genuine desires are not met in healthy ways, we fall for this distorted vision of things. Here's the analogy I like to use. We all have this hungry heart, right? We all have this yearning for love, for union. We want to understand the meaning of our sexuality, and that is God-given. But when that hunger is not met with God's glorious banquet, we turn to food that is not good for us. And most people think Christianity offers nothing but a starvation diet for this hunger. No, Christianity is an invitation to a banquet. And when we are not invited to that banquet, the cultural distortions, what I call the fast food of the culture, starts to look very attractive. And we go to that fast food attempting to satisfy a hunger, but it only brings sickness. That's what we're seeing in the world. And I think part of the violence in a movie like 50 Shades of Grey It speaks to the deep interior wound that we have in the heart. We live in a sexually dysfunctional world, and there's a deep emotional pain that goes along with that. And it's kind of like the person who will cut himself, right? Because there's a deep emotional pain. I cut myself so that I can get that pain out, so that the pain can be expressed. The deep sexual pain we're in as a culture has to get eventually expressed, and it comes out tragically in violence. And we can become attracted to violence as a kind of cathartic way of trying to deal with the pain that we're in.
So Christopher, I only have a few more moments with you here. We've been told, don't watch the movie, don't read the books. But this popularity is coming at the same time. Pornography and things of that same nature are saturating the mainstream culture. As Catholics, what are we to do?
Turn to the Theology of the Body from Pope John Paul II. John Paul II, in his glorious, magnificent teaching, is leading us into God's glorious banquet, God's true plan for making us male and female, which is more glorious and more stupendous than anything we can dream or imagine. Only as we feed that hunger with good food, God's provision for that yearning, only then will we not be swept away by the lies of the fast food gospel, so to speak.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for shedding some light on this very gray situation.
I hope I did a little bit.